Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team. Looks like I'm not out of the woods yet. I got more requests for more general 8th overviews for different armies, and so this one's going to be about Demons of Chaos. So looking back at 7th, they were just king of the hill, right? I mean, they were just dominating everything, and really, when it came to 8th now, they're still doing fairly well, but it's nothing anywhere like before. Now they're even with a lot of other armies. Looking at some of those reasons, I mean, before something like the Bloodthirster would go in, crush whatever it wants, run whole units down, Steadfast shuts that down. Things like with the magic phase. Well, whereas before you could just take a whole bunch of horrors and get all the power and dispel dice you want, well, now that doesn't work that way. Now they're just all wizards, and you might get more channeling attempts, but that's nowhere as powerful as just getting extra dice, extra dice, extra dice. And then finally, I mean, just some of the smaller things to say horrors, right? Horrors before, flamers would do a whole bunch of shooting, destroying all your main units. Well, now when you take these big units, the shooting they do is very small, and then when you get into combat with them, with all the extra support attacks, they're going to be dying really quickly. So just a lot of things. I mean, like the fast fiends that used to be going around to your flanks and, you know, wrecking your day. Well, now who cares? I'm still steadfast, and I'm going to reform to see you and kill you. So things are completely different, and but they still have some good builds. So let's start looking at that. So when we're looking at our core, well, the obvious winner is letters. I was trying to think of a way to get around to it, but I think a lot of people realize this. In 8th, it's all about killing. It's all about having the one really strong, good attack for the right price, and they have it. You know, Strength 5, a great weapon skill, killing blow, hatred synergy once you get that Herald in there, and it's just bam, you know, they can just wipe out huge amounts of models very easily. And then going back, I mean, sure, they only have toughness 3, but at least they have that 5+ ward. Now, when it comes to having that Herald in there, you're going to have to be a lot more careful. This isn't like before where they kill things and get no attacks back. So, I mean, do what you can, give them that 3+ armor save. You actually have to be a little bit defensive sometimes with him too, and almost treat him like a mage and kind of put him on the edge of the unit to make sure he just doesn't die or something. But, I mean, for my money, if I was going to play, I'd just be taking big blocks of horrors, or bloodletters. And the best thing about them monetarily wise is that they're actually fairly cheap, so you can get a lot of them for not too bad. Next one that I like is demonettes. Demonettes have a lot going for them because they have a whole bunch of attacks, and always strike first makes that even better now. So with that synergy, I mean, each of them has 2 attacks. You have the armor piercing, which helps with that, and then once you have the Herald in there, they get always strikes first, and that means re-rolling the hits as long as your initiative is equal or better. And so a whole bunch of slicey and dicey. You have to kind of watch, if you're up against something that has a higher toughness, it's all going to be kind of a waste. So whereas the bloodletters are going to be your big hitters against, you know, the best, still say against the black orcs of the opposing army, the demonettes would be for something like the night goblins. You just want to get in there and just shred them, just a whole bunch of attacks and just wiping them out as fast as you can. And in both cases, you need to take big units, as I keep on saying. You know, you want to take, I'd say 40 to 50 is the magic number here, depending what size of game that you're doing. Just because you want to be in horde, because you want to be as killy as possible, and then you want to be as big as you can so that you have the best chance of taking that steadfast away. Now those are going to be your 2 best core, and going past this, they're okay, but let's get to it. So horrors. As I said, they're really good for magic before, but now, without those extra dice, and you have limited dice, usually you're only going to have your main casters, which are casting magic anyway, so you don't really see them being as big as a part anymore. So if you really want to have a support wizard, but you want to have some, you know, some extra core, you can even just take a bunker, right? Take a bunker of 20 horrors, so you have them to use if you ever have the watchtower, and then you can always have back with them, you know, your BSB or something and stuff like that. So you could work that, but otherwise I see it as a weaker choice. When we get to our plague bears, I mean, the big hit for them is that now you can only take either your ward save or regen, not both. And so obviously now the synergy with your Herald joining is pretty much useless. But instead of seeing it as all negative, the way that I would see this is that more of, well, now there's no reason to take a Herald, so you can save those points, and they're just fine as they are, because that's as good as they're really going to get. And Even though I should just point out that it is a little bit better, because having a 4+ regen is better than a 5+ ward, unless you're against magical attacks. But anyway, there I'd say an even better choice to take for those 20 that hold for the Watchtower, because they do have the beggar toughness, so they will be able to hold out until the big hordes come. And just, if you're going to take a small support unit, they seem to be a fairly solid one, which won't give up their victory points very easily. Going past this to other units, there's different ones you could take. I mean, your flesh hounds and stuff, which were amazing in 7th, now they're okay, but with all those attacks you're going to be taking back, they can go down fairly quickly, so you actually have to be fairly careful with them. And so when you're looking at how you're going to be using these guys, it actually, there isn't a lot of spots for it, because you would think that a lot of time for something like a cavalry unit that you hit the flank and add the kills, while the front unit has all the steadfast, right? Well, while your demon blocks, your block already is providing all the kills, so you don't need the flesh hounds to do that. You could use them to go rush and get to war machines, but fiends would do that better. And so really the only main thing I might be using them for is for character assassination, right? Just take them. Maybe a unit of 6 could be useless if what you're against is just on a 20 mil, but make them 3 and 3, charge it to wherever the character is, and just aim everything at the character. Boom, you've killed it, and now you can run away. So I can see them being used for that, and that's not too bad. Your scouting Nurglings, they can do okay for taking out war machines, but a lot of this stuff that you can add is all this really kind of weak support. I mean, just like you could take fiends, you could also take the demonettes, the mounted demonettes, but again, it's just really going to be just for rushing war machines, and they're fairly weak. You could be taking the God, I can't remember, the screamers, but really now you don't see the small support units anymore. It's just like pterodons, right? All the little units they used to be able to pick on aren't really there anymore. And even though they can go over combats and be picking guys out of there, well, when you're looking at these big units, the damage that they're doing isn't very necessary and isn't really helping, being worth the point. So when it comes to it, you probably just want to load up on, those big blocks, say 2 hordes of demonettes, 2 hordes of bloodletters, a herald in every single one, maybe some support fiends on either sides to rush the war machines. And then if you have a big enough game and have the points, then you can always be throwing in a greater demon or something. And one of the greater demon builds that I really like while we're talking about it is the ability to take your the Slaanesh one. The name is missing right now, but I'll get back to it. But anyway, the big thing is that they can take the 1 power, which is the Soul Eater, or the one that's 100 points. However, every wound they do, they get healed again. And that can be fantastic, because with all these attack backs, now things like even bloodthirsters can be picked down and killed. Well, with this, you can just throw him in there, and he's just going to be kind of decimating things. And I mean, this guy's not going to die ever, unless you get like a lucky cannon shot on him. And he's just going to be on there. He has Void Strike first, so re-rolling the hits. With Strength 6, you're probably 2's the wound, and then Thunderstomp. And so he's so fast too that hopefully if you can get him into combat turn 1, well, then he can be breaking down a block. And while he's doing that, he can be giving his leadership bonus a little bit. But probably even better is you can just use him to support the bigger blocks wherever needed, just to really ensure that you're going to be winning that combat, and then hopefully kill enough guys so that their ranks go down and you can break them because they don't have steadfast. As well, he can also be your main caster too, and because he's so defensive, you don't have to worry about him dying like, say, a Herald of Tzinch would die fairly easily if they ever get to it, or one flying around or something, because that's the other thing. If you have a Lord of Change flying around, well, the longer you stay out of combat, the more time that they have to shoot you down with their war machines. So you're almost better off going with one that's going to be rushing in. And while we're talking about this, let's also talk about the Demon Bomb, which is still there and still very viable. I mean, if you take a look at something like the Mask and their Banner of Despair, or whatever you call it, where you're going down leadership, this can be very devastating in 8th. And the reason why this can be devastating is because, yes, you could be steadfast, right? So let's say that Keeper of Secrets, there's the name, rushes into a big unit of 100 Night Goblins. Well, to begin with, you think as an orc player, who cares, right? I'm going to hold this guy up forever. This is great. I was going to try and get to you, now you came to me. Well, now this isn't good, because all of a sudden they can be reducing your leadership by crazy amounts, and even though you're steadfast, while you're doing your steadfast on a very low value, so you're probably going to break and be run down. So they almost bypass the entire system of steadfast trying to hold back the monsters or anything like that, and they can just be rushing through you. And of course everything's already designed to be giving you the kills, so once you get away steadfast, well, you got everything right there. So demons are very solid. If you can, I would be trying to stick away from the whole demon bomb thing, because you're not going to win any friends by doing stuff like that. But otherwise, you know, very solid stuff. You can still mix a few things in and have some fun, but it seems to me there's some very core units which are the ones you want to be sticking to. So there you have it. Thanks for watching.